Section 7. Appointments of
Vocation comes from the Latin word
The role of a teacher is to teach
Nationalization of teachers.
and comes from
as a
examiners.
teaching as a profession. The general role of a teacher is to teach their students. Teaching is about inspiring and motivating students to realize and exceed their potentials. Teaching is a noble profession which comes with so much responsibility and duty towards students. They do not only teach and impart knowledge, but also inspire and motivate students for life and take important steps in life. There are 6 elements of a profession. First is the initial professional education. By completing a university program, a person can generally begin their professional lives. But before you become a professional, you must first undergo a long and arduous years of preparation. Like, for example, taking a 4-year course in college or university. Second is accreditation. A college or a university that you want to enroll, or if you are already enrolled, should be recognized by the Commission on Higher Education. It does not only mean that it's legit, but also has a better reputation among graduate schools. Third is licensing. It is mandatory and not voluntary. License is an important element for the professionals to be qualified in their occupation. Fourth is professional development. This element gives the professionals the opportunity to learn and apply new knowledge and skills. It is all about building your skill set and knowledge that can help you to your job and further your career. Fifth is professional societies. It is usually a non-profit organization seeking to further a particular profession. The interests of individuals engage in that profession and the public interest. Lastly, the code of ethics. Regardless of your job title, cultural differences, or local laws, one must required to follow the code and standards. It outlines the ethical principles that govern decisions and behaviors at a company or organization. Violating the code of ethics can result to sanctions including termination.
vocation comes from the Latin word vocare, which means to call. In other words, a teacher who practices teaching as a vocation responds to the strong feeling or calling for service. Vocation is teaching with dedication and passion, and not just to simply work, but also to serve other people with a heart. Teaching is also a mission. This only means that the teacher's mission is to touch hearts and mind of children to make them a better individual. Teaching is not as ideal as it is, but teachers do their best to accomplish their missions and make everyone successful.
Demands from the teacher as a professional. So this includes the code of ethics. Of course, it is clearly sure that with the ethical way, it is how a teacher should act. Then promotes academic progress for the learner and also the teacher. And lastly, the most important thing is the effective teaching. This is the professional teacher primary responsibility. It is the effective teaching. So what is effective teaching? Effective teaching can be defined in many ways. This includes the teacher's behavior, and it is the ability to improve student achievement as shown by the research. So now for the clarification, there are models of effective teaching made up or built by some of the proponents. One of these is Mr. Robert Manzano. So first, the classroom strategies, planning and preparing, then reflection on teaching, then collegiality and professionalism. Next is Mrs. Charlotte Danielson framework for teaching. First, the number 1, planning and preparation. 2, the class environment. 3, instruction. Number 4, professional responsibilities. The next proponent is Mr. James Strong. Okay, teacher effectiveness performance evaluation system, or also known as a TP system, is made by Mr. James. So and then first, number 1, professional knowledge. Then number 2, instructional planning, of course. And number 3, instructional delivery. Number 4, assessment or learning. Number 5, the learning environment. Number 6, professionalism. Number 7, student progress. The next is the model, the macro model, or also known as mid-continent research for education and learning. This model is based on the teacher evaluation standards. So first is the teacher demonstrate leadership. The teacher should be leader in their classroom. It demonstrate leadership. And next is the teacher establish a respectful environment for the diverse population of students. Number 3, teachers know the content they teach. Number 4, teacher facilitate learning for their student. Number 5, teacher reflect on their practices. So all of this has the connection or the same with the definition and the information it has. So this is all about the effectiveness, the teacher effectiveness of teaching. So this is all the main point of it.
The Philippine Professional Standards for Teachers, or the PPST, it is a set standards for the teachers in order to ensure that the teachers meet the set standards implemented for the teachers in order to ensure that the aspiring teacher, the future teachers, will possess proficiency, competency, and very well inclined when it comes to teaching, and so that they will be an effective teacher in the long run or in the future when they will become a licensed teacher. So the PPST has 7 domains of characteristics, but I will be reporting the 3 domains. So they must possess these domains in order for them to be effective in the 21st century. So the first domain is the content, knowledge, and pedagogy. So this first domain was trying to emphasize that a teacher must possess knowledge when it comes to their specialized fields. For example, when the specialized field of a teacher is in history, that teacher must show a wide range knowledge or deep knowledge when it comes to history in order for him or for her to be an effective teacher to the learners, since he or she have sufficient knowledge of that specific field. They also display proficiency in mother tongue, Filipino, and English, so that they can utilize a comfortable medium of language depending to what their students are comfortable to use when it comes to knowledge, so that the communication or the interaction and the exchange ideas between the teachers and the learners will flow smoothly. So the second domain is the learning environment. So the second domain emphasize to the learning environment that a teacher can provide to his or her students. So basically, if we will be having the face-to-face, we will utilize the classroom, or this refers the classroom. But today, we used the online learning and teaching modalities, so we engage into the virtual space. So as a teacher, you are obliged to provide a safe and secure learning environment to your students or to the learners, so that the learner can easily acquire the topics and the lessons that you've taught to them. Because basically, when a student is comfortable to his or her environment, he or she can easily digest and absorb the lessons, of course. And then the third domain is the diversity of learners. So this third domain put emphasis to how a teacher will manage to the diversity of his or her learners. So a classroom is composed of different kinds of students, and basically they have different types of characteristics and attitudes when it comes to learning. So as a teacher, you must know how to respect them. You must also know how to utilize different types of strategies in order to meet their intelligences, because you will be handling a diverse learner, so it means that these learners have distinct characteristics and intelligences from each other, and you have to meet their intelligences in order for you to be an effective teacher, so that your teaching will be effective to them, and also they can absorb the lesson easily, because you have met their desired intelligences or their desired way of learning. So that's all.
Going for up to domain 7. Domain 4, curriculum and planning. So they apply their professional knowledge to plan and design individually or with their co-workers. It is well-organized and sequenced lessons that are relevant and responsive to learners' needs. They will communicate to the learners' goals to support their participation. So in Domain 4, it includes 5 strands. First is planning and management of teaching and learning process. Second is learning outcomes aligned with learning competencies. Third, relevance and responsiveness of learning programs. Fourth, professional collaboration to enrich teaching process. And the last part is teaching and learning resources, including ICT. So the next is Domain 5, the assessment and reporting. Educators use assessment data in a ways to inform and enhance the teaching and learning process and programs. Domain 5 assessment and reporting is composed of 5 strands. The first one is design, selection, organization, and utilization of assessment strategies. Second, monitoring and evaluation of learning progress and achievement. Third is feedback to improve learning. Fourth is communication of learner needs, progress, and achievement to key stakeholders. Fifth, use of assessment data to enhance teaching and learning practices and programs. Next is Domain 6. In Domain 6, they identify and respond to opportunities that link teaching and learning in the classroom to experiences, interests, and aspirations of the wider school community and the other key stakeholders. So Domain 6 consists of 4 strands. First is establishment of learning environments that are responsive to community context. Second is engagement of parents and the wider school community in the educative process. Third is the professional ethics. Fourth is school policies and procedures. So the last is the Domain 7, personal growth and professional development. In Domain 7, it values personal and professional reflection and learning to improve their practice. They assume responsibility for personal growth and professional development for lifelong learning. So Domain 7, personal growth and professional development, contains 5 strands. First is philosophy of teaching. Second is dignity of teaching as a profession. Third is professional links with colleges. Fourth, professional reflection and learning to improve practice. And the last part is professional development goals.
Presidential Decree Number 1106, Series of 1976, providing for the professionalization of teachers. So from here, an educator must follow a certain process so that it could have its certificates and as well as its license for him or her to be able to provide its service for the country. Whereas our educational institutions must be on top of its service so that it could produce effective and efficient future educators.
Whereas the Constitution provides primary concern to all educational institutions and requires that state shall establish and maintain a complete, sufficient, and integrated system of education relevant to the goals of national development. Whereas, in the pursuit on these objectives, the Department of Education and Culture has adopted ways and means of overseeing all educational institutions in the country. Whereas, this supervisory function of the DCS, DEC, or Diploma of College Studies is to ensure that the educational institution inculcate students the love for the country, teach the duties of citizenship, and develop moral character, personal discipline, and scientific, technological, and vocational efficiency. Whereas, to implement these objectives, the institution have relied upon their teacher whose direct and continuing interactions with the young people and the children make them potent forces for the development of proper attitudes among the citizenry. Whereas, this accounts for the tremendous growth of the teaching population, comprising in the civil service sector alone more than 300,000 teachers deployed all over the country. Whereas, to ensure that in the immediacy and urgency of teachers' recruitment, qualitative requirements are not overlooked, it has become necessary to regulate the teaching profession. Whereas, in recognition of the vital role of teachers in nation building and as an incentive to raise the morale of teachers, it is imperative that they be considered as professionals and teaching be recognized as a profession. In this constitution, even though teaching has to study many years in college, it is still not a profession. But in this constitution, teaching has become a profession. That's all. Thank you.
For Section 1, it is the title. As what I've said earlier, it is the professionalization for teachers. And for the Section 2, it is the declaration of policy. So from here, the government must fully support the educational institutions as it is the one that produce future professionals. Section 3 Definition of Terms. Teaching. It is in line with a profession concerned with classroom instructions for elementary and secondary, and it could be either from public or private schools. Then teachers. It is the one who delivers the instructions for the students. Then board. It refers to the National Board for Teachers. Section 4. It is the creation for the National Board for Teachers, and it composes of the following. So first we have the Secretary of Education and Culture. Then the second one is the Chairman Civil Service Commission, and both of them are co-chairman. The third one is the Commissioner Professional Regulations Commission, and the fourth one is 2 members representing the private sector to be appointed by the President, and both of them are the members. Section 5 Power and Duties. The board is the one who made the questionnaire for the examinee to take with. It is for the elementary and secondary levels, and it is held for at least once a year. Also, the board is the one who sets a specific time and date for the examination, and later on, they were also the one who would release the results. And the board will identify the factors affecting the teaching profession, and from this, they may come up for a solution. And additionally, the board has the right to revoke the professional teacher's certificates if it breaks the code of ethics. The board has the right to appoint someone for a position if it has the potential, and also the board has the right to collect fees for the examination. And the board maintains the effectivity of the regulations that have been implemented, as it is important for this degree. Section 6 Qualification requirements for examination applicants. Someone must be a citizen of this country, and he or she must have a good moral character and free from any physical or mental defects. Also, an applicant must have at least 18 units for professional education.
Section 7. Appointments of examiners. The board appoint examiners for every examination. Name shall not be disclosed until after the release of the results of the examination. They shall receive not less than 5 peso for each examinee and more than 18,000 pesos per examination. Section 8. Scope of the examination. The examination shall consist of written tests, the scope of which shall be determined by the board. Section 9. Ratings in the examination. The candidate must have obtained a general average of at least 70% in all subjects, with no rating below 50% in any subject. Section 10. Report of the results of examination. The examiners shall report the ratings to the board within 150 days after examination unless extended. Section 11. Issuance of certificates. The teachers who have passed examination shall be considered as having passed the board examination for teachers. The board may consider their certificates as certificates of eligibility or issue a new certificate upon registration. Section 12. Registration. The Civil Service Commission shall register holders of professional teacher certificate, which registration is an evidence that the registrant is entitled to all the rights and privileges of a professional teacher unless the certificate is suspended or cancelled. Section 13. Reissuance of revoked certificates and replacement of lost certificates. The board may, upon proper application, issue another copy, original or duplicate. A new certificate to replace a lost, destroyed certificate may be issued subject to the rules of the board. Section 14. Registration by reciprocity. The applicant shall submit competent and conclusive documentary evidence confirmed by the Department of Foreign Affairs showing that his country's existing laws permit citizens of the Philippines to practice teaching profession under the rules and regulations governing the citizens. Section 15. Prohibitions. 3 years after the effectivity of this decree, no person shall engage in teaching and or act as a teacher as defined in this decree unless he is holder of a professional teacher certificate or is considered a professional teacher under this decree. Section 16. Penal provisions. Any person who shall practice the teaching without valid professional teacher certificate shall be penalized by a fine of not less than 1,000 pesos nor more than 5,000 pesos, imprisonment and not in imprisonment of not less than 6 months nor more than 2 years, or both. Section 17. Repealing clause. All acts, decrees, executive orders, administrative orders, rules, and regulations are hereby repealed or modified accordingly. Section 18. Separability clause. This decree or any portion declared unconstitutional by a competent court, other provisions shall not be affected thereby. Section 19. Effectivity. This decree shall take effect January 1, 1977. This is done in Manila this 22nd day of September in the year of our Lord 1976. That's all. Thank you.
So Republic Act number 7836, this is the act who strengthened the regulation for practicing the Philippines licensure examination for teachers and from other purposes. So it has 4 articles and I will be tackling the 3 articles. So Article 1 has 4 sections. Section 1 short title, this is actually known as the Philippine Teachers Professionalization Act of 1994, while in Section 2, the Statement of Policy, this act state recognized the vital role of teachers in nation building and development. So in Section 3, it has 2 objectives, the promotion, development, professionalization of teachers and the teaching profession, and the supervision and regulation of the licensure examination. While in Section 4, definition of terms, it has 4 definitions. 1 is teaching, teachers, the board, the commission. So let's proceed to Article 2, the board for professional teachers. So Section 5, creation and composition of the board. Then it composed of 5 members appointed by the President of the Philippines and recommended of the Commission. And Section 6, the duties and function of the board. So the board shall have the following duties and function: promulgate, administer; B. Determine and fix; C. Issue, suspended, or letter D. Prescribe and collect examination; E. Prescribe and adapt a code of ethical and professional standard practicing ethical standards; F. Administer oaths in connection with administration of this act; G. Supervise and regulate the registration; H. Adopt an official seal of the board; I. Look into the condition of J. Ensure that all educational institutions offering elementary and secondary education. K. Investigate such violation of this act, the rules in the code of ethical and professional standards, and lastly, discharge such other powers, duties, and functions as the board. Let's proceed to Section 7, terms of office. In Section 8, qualification of board members. Each board member must be a citizen and resident of the Philippines, be at least 35 years of age, approved. C. Be a holder of a degree of Bachelor of Arts and Bachelor of Science in Education. D. Be a professional teacher with at least 10 years in elementary and secondary level active. And last, not be an official or member of the faculty. Section 9, composition of the board. So in Section 10, supervision of the board and custodian of its record. The board. In Section 11, secretariat and supporting service. In Section 12, removal of a board member. So let's proceed to Article 3, examination and registration. Section 13, examination, registration, and license required. In Section 14, scope of examination. Proceed to 15. Section 15, qualification requirements of applicants. No. Section 16, report of the result of the examination. So in Section 17, issuance of certificate or registration and professional license. Section 18, oath before practice. So in Section 19, a periodic merit examination of teachers. In Section 20, failure to pass the merit examination. Failure of any permanent teacher to pass the examination shall not. Section 21, incentive. Teachers who pass the merit examination shall be awarded a diploma of merit by the board. B. Earn merit points for purposes of promotion in salary to a higher position or grade level. C. Be placed in the priority list for government scholarship. And D. Enjoy such other benefits as may be promulgated by the board. Section 22, integration of the teaching profession. So in Section 23, revocation of the certificate of registration, suspension from the practice of the teaching profession, and cancellation of temporary or special permit of registrant. So the registration for any of the following causes: A. Conviction for any criminal offenses by a court of competent jurisdiction. B. Immoral, unprofessional, or dishonorable conduct. C. Declaration by a court of competent jurisdiction for being mentally unsound or insane. Malpractice, gross incompetence, gross negligence, or serious ignorance of the practice of the teaching profession. So the use of or perpetration of any fraud or deceit in obtaining a certificate of registration, professional license, or special temporary permit. F. Chronic inebriety or habitual use of drugs. G. Violation of any of the provision of this act, the rules and regulation and other policies of the board and the commission, and the code of ethical and professional standards for professional teachers. So H. Unjustified or willful failure to attend seminars, workshop, conferences, and the like, or the continuing education program prescribed by the board of the commission. So in Section 24, registration by reciprocity. Note in Section 25, roster of professional teachers. So the teachers, Section 26, registration and exemption. 2 years after the effectivity of this act, no person shall engage in teaching on or act as a professional teacher. So the certificate of registration and the professional license as a professional teacher shall be issued without examination as well. So the approval of this act is a holder of a certificate of eligibility as a teacher issued by the Civil Service Commission and the Department of Education, Culture, and Sports. And B. A registered professional teacher with a National Board for Teachers under the Department of Education or the DEX pursuant to a presidential decree number 1006 or not qualified under paragraphs 1 and 2, but any of the following qualification to be 1. An elementary or secondary teacher for 5 years, in good standing, and a holder of Bachelor of Science in Education or its equivalent. 2, provided that they shall be given 2 years from the organization of the board for professional teachers within which to register include the roster of professional teachers, and 5, provided further that those incumbent teachers who are not qualified to register without examination under this act or who, albeit qualified, were unable to register with a 2-year period should be issued a 5-year temporary. Provided furthermore that those who have failed licensure shall be eligible as a para teachers if the DEX would give them the permit to be a para teacher. And that will be the topic I will be giving today. Thank you.
Article 4 under Public Act Number 7836, provisions relative to the practice of the teaching profession. Section 27 under Article 4 tells us that no person shall practice or offer to practice the teaching profession in the Philippines or be appointed as teachers if he or she do not have a valid certificate justifying that he or she is a licensed professional. Section 28, the penal provisions. So this section follows the section 27, which was tackled earlier. So this section tells us that any person who is practicing as a professional teacher without a valid certificate of registration and a valid license shall be punishable by a fine of not less than 5,000 pesos, nor more than 20,000 pesos, or may be imprisoned from 6 months to 5 years. Section 29, appropriations. For this section, the sum or the total money that was carried out by the provision shall be included for the operation of the government of the Republic of the Philippines under any specified conditions and or specified purposes. Section 30, implementing guidelines. This is the section that implement guidelines intended to formulate and organize the necessary guidelines for the effective implementation of this act within 60 days of its approval. Any violation for this section will be held liable under Republic Act Number 6713, known as the Code of Conduct and Ethical Standard for Public Officials and Employees. Section 31 under Article 4, the transitory provisions. So this section tells us that all incumbent teachers who are not certified or otherwise certified as professional teachers are given a chance to continue teaching for a period of 5 years. After that, if he or she still doesn't have a license, he or she will be terminated. Section 32 of Article 4 is the separability clause. This is the section that tells us that if any section or provision of this act shall declared unconstitutional or invalid, the other sections or provisions not affected shall remain in full force and effect. Section 33 of Article 4, repealing laws. So this section tells us that if any law, presidential decrees, executive orders, or rules and regulations are inconsistent and was not followed efficiently, the law or act can be repealed and nullified. The last section of this act is the Section 34, which is the effectivity clause. So this section means that the act or agreement that was made shall become effective on the date of the signing hereof by the parties and shall be valid or enforceable unless earlier terminated.
Republic Act Number 9293, all about, otherwise known as the Philippine Teachers Professionalization Act of 1994. It is an act amending certain section of Republic Act numbered 7836 or RA number 7836, otherwise known as the Philippine Teachers Professionalization Act of 1994. So when we say amending, it means something that has been changed or revised. So we will find out what are those written in Republic Act number 7836 that has been amended. For the qualification requirements of applicants, those taking the licensure exams will only be allowed to take it if they are graduates of government-recognized colleges or universities and have met the minimum requirements. For teachers in preschool, he should have at least take the bachelor's degree in early childhood education or BSED or its equivalent. And as for the teachers in the elementary grades, a bachelor's degree in elementary education or BSE Ed or its equivalent. For teachers in the secondary grades, a bachelor's degree in education or its equivalent with a major and minor or a bachelor degree in arts and sciences with at least 18 units in professional education. And for teachers of vocational and 2-year technical courses, a bachelor's degree in the field of specialization or its equivalent with at least 18 units in professional education. Upon approval of the application and payment of the prescribed fees, the certificate of registration and professional license as a professional teacher shall be issued without examination. But it is only required in this act to a qualified applicant who is a holder of a certificate of eligibility as a teacher issued by the Civil Service Commission and the Department of Education, Culture, and Sports, or a registered professional teacher with the National Board for Teachers under the Department of Education, Culture, and Sports, or DEX, pursuant to Presidential Decree Number 1006. It is called para-teachers for those individual who provides instructional or related support to students under the direction and supervision of a certified teacher. And it is only eligible for those who have failed the licensure exam for professional teachers.